August 16, 1966, 7:46 a.m., somewhere over the Jordanian desert. Munir Redfa's MiG-21 is screaming toward the Israeli border at 800 miles per hour. Iraqi air defense is yelling at him to respond. He doesn't answer. Behind him, 4 Iraqi interceptors. Ahead, Israeli anti-aircraft batteries programmed to destroy anything crossing from the east. His fuel gauge is in the red zone. Maybe 3 minutes left. This is the single most valuable theft in Cold War history, and it's 90 seconds from complete disaster. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back 18 months. Early 1965, Tel Aviv, Mossad headquarters. The intelligence assessment is clear. Israel is about to lose air superiority in the Middle East. The Soviet Union has flooded Egypt, Syria, and Iraq with hundreds of MiG-21 fighters. They're faster than anything Israel has. They climb higher. They hit harder. Israeli analysts know the next war is coming, but they have zero intel on how to fight the MiG-21. This isn't the first time Israel tried to get a MiG. 2 years earlier, Mossad attempted to bribe a Soviet test pilot in Egypt. The pilot took the money, reported the approach to KGB handlers, and disappeared. Mossad lost the money and burned their network in Cairo. 6 months after that, they tried recruiting an Iraqi pilot during a training visit to France. The pilot refused, returned to Baghdad, and reported nothing. But French intelligence leaked the approach to Moscow anyway. The Soviets tightened security protocols across every nation operating MiG-21s. Now the CIA offers $1 million for an intact MiG. No one collects it. Mossad's director, Mayor Amit, makes the decision. We try again, but this time, different approach. But there's a problem. MiG-21s only exist behind Soviet lines, guarded around the clock. Pilots are vetted constantly. And now, because of previous failures, Soviet advisors trust no one. So Mossad stops looking at the machine. They start looking at the men flying it. The targeting operation takes 8 months. Mossad officers across Europe and the Middle East compile lists of every pilot flying Soviet aircraft. Hundreds of names, backgrounds, family situations, political views, psychological profiles. They track promotions, who advances, who gets blocked. They monitor disciplinary actions, which pilots clash with superiors. They investigate personal relationships, financial troubles, family problems. Here's a detail that's never been publicized. Mossad broke into the Iraqi Air Force personnel office in Baghdad. Twice. First break-in, photographed 847 personnel files. Every pilot, every officer, every evaluation report. Second break-in, 3 months later. They needed updated information because the first batch was already outdated. The operative who did both break-ins was a janitor who'd worked in that building for 9 months. Building trust, learning guard patterns, mapping which offices had what files. That janitor's real name has never been revealed. But he's the reason Mossad knew which pilots to target. This produces 200 potential targets. Most are unsuitable, too loyal, too unstable, wrong aircraft access. But buried in the data, 12 names worth pursuing. One stands out, Munir Redfa, Iraq's top MiG-21 pilot, Assyrian Christian. 7 times passed over for promotion because of his religion. But here's what made Redfa the perfect target. His personnel file showed something unusual. 3 years earlier, he'd filed a formal complaint about discrimination. The complaint went nowhere, but he'd put it in writing. That complaint told Mossad everything. This wasn't a man who accepted his situation quietly. He was angry enough to document it. Mossad discovers something else. Redfa recently tried to marry. The woman's family rejected him. Wrong religion, wrong class. A 3-inch file grows on Redfa, every detail of his life, his resentments, his breaking points. But approaching him is the dangerous part. One wrong move and he reports the contact. Or worse, Iraqi intelligence is already watching him, waiting for Israeli approach. Mossad needs a way in that looks completely innocent. April 1966, Baghdad. The approach vector takes 3 months to develop. Mossad plants a businessman in Baghdad. European, legitimate import-export business. No intelligence background that Iraqi services can find. Mossad set it up 18 months before the operation even started. Actual imports and exports, actual profits. Real employees who had no idea their boss worked for Israeli intelligence. The businessman has been in Baghdad for 6 months before he ever speaks to Redfa, building cover, establishing legitimacy. First contact, a social gathering, aviation talk, casual. But Mossad knows something Iraqi intelligence does not. Redfa's cousin in Beirut is already on Mossad's payroll. The cousin has been feeding information about Redfa's state of mind for months. Mossad ran the entire recruitment through a false flag operation. The cousin believed he was helping American intelligence, not Israeli. If the operation had been exposed, the trail would lead to Washington, not Tel Aviv. The businessman and Redfa meet 4 more times over 2 months, each meeting carefully staged. The businessman never pushes, just listens while Redfa vents about discrimination. Iraqi counterintelligence is watching, but they see nothing suspicious. A European businessman, a disgruntled pilot, casual friendship. Then Mossad makes a calculated gamble. They have the cousin in Beirut send Redfa a letter. Coded message hidden in family news. If you ever want out, there are people who can help. Redfa doesn't respond, but he doesn't report it either. That silence tells Mossad everything. June 1966. Private room in Baghdad. 5th meeting between Redfa and the businessman. The businessman drops his cover. I work for Israeli intelligence. $1 million. New life in the West. Fly a MiG-21 to Israel. Redfa had the chance to step up, report it, and be a hero, but he didn't. What about my family? We extract them first, or there's no deal. Redfa takes 48 hours. This is where most operations collapse. The target panics, reports the contact, but Mossad has been reading Redfa's psychology for 8 months. They know he won't panic. 2 days later. I'm in. My family leaves before I fly. Non-negotiable. Now comes the hardest part. Mossad has 10 weeks to execute the most complex extraction they've ever attempted. 2 parallel operations running simultaneously. Any mistake in either one destroys both. Operation 1. Extract the family. Redfa has a wife and 4 children in Baghdad. Iraqi intelligence monitors all military families. Mossad's Tehran station forges Iranian business documents, creates an entire fake trade company with office space, phone lines, business registration. But here's what makes this extraction extraordinary. Mossad didn't just forge the documents. They created an entire corporate history. The fake Iranian company had been operating for 3 years. Tax records, business permits, trade transactions, employee records, all fabricated and inserted into Iranian government databases. How did they get into Iranian government systems? Mossad had a clerk in Tehran's commercial registry office on payroll for 2 years. He'd been creating false corporate records for multiple operations. The Redfa family extraction was just one of them. They bribed 3 different Iraqi border officials, not directly, through cutouts who have no idea who the real client is. But there's a problem Mossad doesn't anticipate. 2 weeks before the planned extraction, one of the bribed border officials gets transferred. New official takes his place. The entire exit route is compromised. Mossad has 72 hours to rebuild the extraction plan or abort the mission. They identify a second border crossing, less monitored but more dangerous. Routes through tribal areas where Iraqi government control is weak. Mossad paid a Kurdish tribal leader $50,000 to guarantee safe passage through his territory. That tribal leader thought he was being paid to smuggle weapons. He had no idea the cargo was a pilot's family. New bribes, new documents, new timeline. The family's extraction date moves up by 1 week. Now they have to move before everything is ready. Operation 2. Get Redfa authorization to fly solo. Iraqi Air Force protocols never allow solo MiG flights, ever. They fly in pairs minimum. Mossad studies Iraqi training schedules for 3 months, looking for any gap. They find one. Senior pilots can request solo navigation training. But approval requires sign-off from 3 different commanders. Redfa submits the request. First commander approves it, second commander approves, third commander hesitates. He's suspicious. Why does Redfa suddenly want solo flights? For 6 days, the approval sits on this commander's desk. Redfa's family is already in Iran. The extraction timeline is locked. If this commander rejects the request, the entire operation collapses. Redfa makes a calculated move. He visits the commander's office, brings a bottle of expensive whiskey, claims he wants to improve his instrument skills before an upcoming evaluation. The commander signs the approval. August 15th, 1966. 11 p.m. Redfa's family reaches the Iraqi border, the new crossing point through tribal territory. The guards are different from the ones Mossad bribed. This wasn't the plan. Redfa's wife hands over the forged documents. Her hands are shaking. The guard studies them for what feels like an eternity. He waves them through. Later, Mossad will discover why. The guard couldn't read well. He saw official-looking stamps and let them pass. Sometimes luck matters more than planning. First checkpoint cleared. The family crosses into Iran. Coded message reaches Tel Aviv. Family is out. Mission is go. August 16th, 1966, 5:30 a.m. Iraqi Air Base. Redfa arrives early. Normal routine. Nothing unusual. But Mossad has one more asset in play that Redfa doesn't know about. An Iraqi ground crew member has been on Mossad's payroll for 6 months. Not for sabotage, just for information. This crew member ensures Redfa's MiG-21 gets fully fueled, checks that every system is functional, makes sure nothing will fail during the critical flight. Redfa never knows this crew member is protecting him. 7:15 a.m. Redfa takes off. The flight takes 37 minutes from Iraqi wheels up to Israeli wheels down. For 30 minutes, everything goes according to plan. Then at the turn point, Redfa drops to 200 feet and runs. Iraqi interceptors scramble. Jordanian radar tracks him. Israeli defenses nearly shoot him down before the code phrase gets through. Mossad has 3 teams operating inside that window. Team 1, Israeli Mirage fighters already airborne. They've been flying patrol patterns near the border for 6 hours. Waiting. Team 2, Mossad officer embedded in Jordanian air traffic control in Amman. When Jordanian radar picks up the MiG, this officer delays the alert to Baghdad by 90 seconds. Creates confusion about the aircraft's heading. Those 90 seconds are the margin between success and Iraqi interceptors catching Redfa. Team 3, Israeli ground radar operators who receive special briefings 48 hours earlier. They know the code phrase. They know the timeline. They've practiced the intercept sequence a dozen times. When Redfa transmits Operation Diamond, they react instantly. An Israeli anti-aircraft battery nearly fires anyway. The order to hold fire arrives 3 seconds before launch. 7:52 a.m. Redfa lands at Ramat David Air Base. Total Mossad operation time from first approach to successful landing, 18 months. 6 hours later, Moscow. The KGB confirms it. Israel has the MiG. Soviet military leadership enters crisis mode. Every specification is compromised. Every tactical doctrine is exposed. Retrofitting the whole Warsaw Pact MiG-21 fleet costs $400 million, but the real impact goes beyond money. Moscow promised Arab allies that Soviet technology was secure. That promise just landed in Israel 72 hours later. Ramat David Air Base. American engineers arrive on a classified flight. The MiG moves to a secure hangar under armed guard. What they discover changes everything. The radar can't track low-altitude targets. Cockpit visibility is terrible. The aircraft bleeds energy in sustained turns. But here's something that remained classified for 30 years. Hidden inside the MiG's avionics bay, Soviet engineers had installed a self-destruct mechanism, a small explosive charge designed to destroy the aircraft's most sensitive electronics if certain conditions were met. Specifically, if the aircraft landed at an unauthorized airfield. The mechanism had a pressure sensor. It was supposed to detonate when the MiG landed anywhere except pre-approved Soviet or Iraqi bases. It didn't work. A faulty circuit prevented detonation. American engineers found it during disassembly. If that circuit had functioned properly, the explosion would have destroyed critical avionics and possibly killed Redfa during landing. Mossad had no idea this system existed. But the most valuable find is tactical. Soviet pilots are trained to follow ground controller instructions, not make independent decisions. Western pilots train to improvise. Soviet pilots follow scripts. And here's another detail that changed air combat forever. Inside the MiG's documentation, engineers found the complete radio frequency list for every Soviet-equipped Air Force in the Middle East. Ground control frequencies, emergency channels, tactical coordination channels. Israel now had the ability to listen to and jam every Soviet air defense network in the region. During the Six-Day War, Israeli electronic warfare units used those frequencies to inject false commands into Egyptian and Syrian air defense nets, sending fighters to wrong locations, creating phantom threats, sowing chaos. This single piece of intelligence found in Redfa's MiG made electronic warfare possible on a scale never before attempted. 1 year later, June 5, 1967, Six-Day War, Israeli aircraft launch Operation Focus. Within 3 hours, over 400 Arab aircraft destroyed. When Egyptian and Syrian MiG-21s get airborne, Israeli pilots engage them with knowledge that didn't exist before Operation Diamond. Final kill ratio, 50-1 in Israel's favor. Military historians later argue that Operation Diamond won the air war before the first shot was fired. They'll never know for certain. The Mossad officer who posed as a businessman in Baghdad extracts himself from Iraq 2 weeks after Redfa's defection. He makes it to Turkey. Iraqi intelligence has his description, his cover identity. They're hunting for him. He spends 6 months in a safe house in Istanbul before Mossad can move him to Israel. He never operates in the Middle East again. The asset in Jordanian air traffic control, who delayed the alert by 90 seconds, continues working there for 3 more years. Feeding intelligence to Israel, Munir Redfa vanished into Israeli witness protection. New name, new life. Israel paid the full $1 million. He never returned to Iraq, never saw his extended family again. Redfa died in Israel in 1998. His assumed name remains classified. His grave shows only dates, no mention of what he did, no acknowledgement of how he changed history. The MiG-21 Redfa flew still exists. Tail number 721, Israeli Air Force Museum. Most visitors have no idea what they're looking at. They don't know about the 18-month Mossad operation across 4 countries. They don't know about the 37 operatives who made it possible. They don't know about the assets who disappeared and were never heard from again. They don't know this single aircraft shifted the balance of Middle Eastern air power and gave Western forces a decisive Cold War advantage. Operation Diamond proved something intelligence agencies still study. The most sophisticated technology is worthless if the person operating it can be turned. That's not a heist. That's a masterclass in intelligence warfare. And it happened because 37 Mossad operatives spent 18 months convincing one pilot that betrayal was worth the price.